Hi everyone, welcome to our event. This event is brought to you by DataTalks.Club, which is a community of people who love data. We have weekly events, and today is one of such events. If you want to find out more about the events we have, there is a link in the description, so go check it out. You'll see all the events we have in our schedule. And then, very important, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done this yet, because you will not miss any of the future streams like today. So yeah, don't forget to do this. And we have an amazing Slack community. If you want to hang out with other data enthusiasts, check it out. During today's interview, you can ask any question you want. There is a pinned link in the live chat. Click on this link, ask your question, and I will be covering these questions during the interview. So that's...
Very prepared. Thank you, Alexei, for having me.
Yeah, so now I will open the document with the questions we prepared for you. Johanna, mostly. So, and we will start. Are you ready?
I was born ready.
Okay. So, this week, we'll talk about teaching and mentoring in data analytics. We have a special guest today, Irina. Irina works as a teacher and curriculum developer for data analytics and data science at Frauen Loop, which is an NGO in Germany. Judging from the name, Frauen means women, right?
Yeah, and also AI build, actually, as well.
So Irina studied computer science in Romania and Germany, and she has worked at a variety of tech companies in Berlin, Amsterdam, the Bay Area. She is very active as a mentor in the area of data analytics and leadership. She is also an activist with a focus on supporting women in tech. So welcome, Irina. Welcome to our show.
Thank you very much for having me, Alexei. I'm very happy to be here and tell you all about these things that are like, these are my moonlighting jobs. You know, the 9 to 5 is daylight, and teaching and all of these things are my moonlighting. But it's a great passion for a long time.
Okay. Yeah, I also wanted to mention that the questions for today's interview are prepared by Johanna Bayer. Thanks, Johanna, for your help. And let's get started. So before we go into our main topic of teaching and mentoring in data analytics, let's start with your background. Can you tell us about your career journey so far?
Absolutely. How many minutes? So I was born. All right. Okay, that's more than enough.
5. I don't know. Take your time.
I come from Romania. I was born in '83, and to a family of nerds. So lucky enough, I got to code already at the age 12 because I got bored in my school and I wanted to to see what the heck that computer is doing, which was basic. So
at which age?
11, 12.
11.
They were making us knit. They were making us knit, and I finished all the knitting and embroidery. I don't know how this is called. Yeah, but you know what I mean. And I was like, I'm done with this. No, give me that green screen computer. I want it. Of course, we also grew up with mathematics books and our dad doing puzzles. And I always knew I wanted to go to mathematics and computer science after that because I really liked him. Funny enough, my brother was always faster than me. And he was like, I'm not going to study computer science. Like, but I am. I have to be the quickest. So this is kind of like, we had a very geeky childhood. So my dad was a professor in AI. My mom was a database analyst.
Second generation data analyst.
Basically, yeah, exactly. And so I always wanted to go study computer science. This is what I chose. I did my bachelor's in Romania, and then I moved to Germany for my master's, for an Erasmus and my master's. And I wanted to do research. I wanted to do things that I knew that could not be done in Romania at the time. The industry did not support that kind of direction. So I decided to do a master in research at Max Planck, Germany, and then take it from there. So this is kind of was my journey. I love that. I recommend to anyone studying at Max Planck. It's like a mini Google and with high imposter syndrome. Yeah, I did 1.5 years of PhD after that, and I realized that this doesn't make me tick. The teaching does, and the students do, the classes do, but I like to work in something that has impact in the real world, and I felt like the PhD was not really connected to it. So that's how I landed up in Berlin. I started with a very generic role as a data consultant or engineer, and then moved slowly towards data. All in all, 4 years where I reached the role of a BI manager. And I was disappointed about the layoffs in that year, that Davanda also had layoffs that year. And I remember, okay, let's change the city, or the scene a little bit. So that's why I took an offer from Google and I moved to Munich. I was working in the advertising department in publishers on a technical ladder, taking care of really large clients for Google. What else can I say? The normal job, 9 to 5 at Google, never really gets you promoted. Sorry for that. So you have to find other projects that are kind of aligned with your strengths and skills. And I chose data logs, data, and models and forecasting. If you do this, then you get more money of that. So this is how I got into the whole workflows and pipelines. And this was like my most coolest project back then. Then I moved to San Francisco because I really wanted to report to a female manager that still works there in that org. There were not many female managers anyway. So
that was at Google, right?
Yeah. In the German offices, I don't remember female managers, but in the San Francisco office there was. And I have to say this because I think this is very important due to the percentage of women that are in tech. I reported to a woman manager for the first time at age 32. I was working in a team where there were something else than men at age 32. So we know that we have some gender gap there in presence in Germany. I'm not going to continue more with Google. I mean, I took on other roles in some research papers and I moved from buy side and sell side. I wanted to know as much as possible that I could get from this particular org, add cloud on top of it. And then I left Google and kind of merged all my worlds in one. And from there on, I worked in the Netherlands as a consultant. And then I started again the managing path. Actually, my first team I managed was a team of data engineers. And I really liked them because they had stand up early, and I love a good early stand up. Yeah, and since a year I'm back in Berlin. I'm a manager of analytics, but I can also do data engineering, so I can wear very many hats. And as I mentioned, I really liked teaching during my PhD, and this is something that I kept investing in all the time after I left. I mean, that means going back to Romania to my computer science high school and telling kids what they can do with it, and encourage women to study, or becoming a part of the first, something like a lean-in group 12 years ago in Berlin. But when I got really serious about it, when my brother moved in with me, which is 10, 11 years ago, and then he saw that I was so happy with my job. It's like, what do you do, Irina? I don't know what you do. He studied marketing. It's like, tell me, how do you come happy after work? What's that? I want to be part of it. So yeah, he was my first student, and it was pretty successful, I would say. And that made me kind of enroll myself as a mentor in other programs as well.
So your brother, he was doing marketing, and he wanted to get. Sorry.
He was also doing a lot of things like IT support. He's also a nerd, but in his own way, more on a hardware part.
So he was doing marketing and a lot of other stuff, and he saw this world of data, and you helped him to get in data, right? So you mentored him.
SQL, databases, queries, syntax.
And then he started working as a data analyst or data scientist.
A data analyst. Actually, I'm so proud of him because he said, like, I have experience as an IT support and I want to go into BI. You have 2 internships in both of these areas. Give them to me both, and I will convince you to roll me to a full-time. I'm so proud of his sass. So, requires courage. And he did a great job, so they hired him. And now, the rest is history because he's doing great.
And you like the process of mentoring people? Did you?
Because I understand how people think. Like for me, it was for teaching him, it was a visual way of teaching him. Like I was trying to explain to him tables and databases and how do you do connections between them. What is an aggregation? How do you imagine yourself that it's kind of collapsing when you have a window function?
That's the most difficult concept. I'm still struggling with that one.
I draw. I like to draw and then explain, like, if you do this, this is what happens. And like, and some other people are not necessarily visual, so you have to find other ways. And it is so interesting to understand them, how they understand the problem, so that you can explain to them in a medium that it's the best for them. So whether, some people like to study alone and then work with you and so on. Yeah, so this is kind of where it all started. Within Google, I was part of the official mentoring areas, as in like the Anita Borg scholarship recipients from Eastern Europe groups, where we had again like a really cool project. And the winning ladies have created actually 2 NGOs that I've also volunteered for from time to time. I've also in US, because it was easy due to the language to mentor. I worked with kids. I worked with the veteran, soon to be veteran, going towards data, teaching kids to code with Blockly and all the logic loops. And coming back to Europe, I discovered the Berlin Mentoring Club, which I thought was great, both for me as like sometimes I also need advice, so I find people to help me there too. Yeah, and that's when kind of I'm focused more on, like, I'm teaching you how to be a data analyst, how to enter the data field. Of course, women prefer women, and there are not many women in data, so that are mentors. So yeah, it's a lot of requests. And then yeah, I got into the boot camps in Berlin, and I started analyzing a little bit the market, because I hired some analysts from 2 different schools. And I saw some patterns, as in, they learn this beautiful code and they learn modeling, but they don't know some of the business, the gut feeling in business. So that's how I looked to analyze that part and discovered Frauenloop. And I'm absolutely in love with their community because it's so positive. And also the fact that it's not for profit allows just a different, more flexibility, more freedom in the curriculum, more tips, more stories from my own experience when somebody needs extra help. And this summer, I also designed a curriculum together with a couple of people at AI Guild, and taught fraud detection and chargeback as well. It's a fancy class.
It's actually one of the questions I have about that. So in your LinkedIn, you have this experience with AI Guild that you mentioned,
yeah.
And the title that you have for this job is program manager. So the responsibilities, according to your profile, is designing the fintech data science curriculum, collecting market standard practices, data sets, and exercises per topic, and finding teachers. So yeah, I got really curious, because we also in DataTalks.Club we also do courses, and yeah, this is something I also need to do often. So I really wanted to ask you more about this.
I mean, right, my employer was AI Guild, and that's Dania and Chris, for people who don't know. It's a small community, we know each other. Yeah, it was, I mean, first I think I was asked to be a teacher, and I said I had a lot of ideas about the program itself and how one can update a little bit the curriculum to make it a bit more modern. And that's how I got to work together with Daniel on this. And then I got inspired that maybe we should have some Google certification or cloud certifications. If we work in BigQuery and do anything data related, we might as well get some certifications for those students. So, ping my connections at Google and got them access to this. There is a learning platform that if you are a Google customer, you can have access to it. So now, on top of everything, the students also get certification. So I think that's pretty unique in that sense. And yeah, what other questions would you have around?
Yeah, the question was, you actually didn't answer that yet. So you said they asked you, AI Guild asked you to join them as a teacher, but you were more interested in updating the curriculum.
I did both.
You did both. Okay. Yeah. And I'm really curious. Like, what does it mean? What does it mean to design a curriculum? What did you do there?
Exactly. So this I didn't alone. It was also Dania, right? I have to give credit is due.
So you plural, I guess.
Yes, exactly. We first of all, I was interviewing financial techies, so managers of data in fintech companies or in fintech departments or in fraud departments, what kind of methodologies they have implemented in their teams, and if this is an exhaustive list. And I came up with a list like money laundering, identity theft, so on, identity management, and so on and so forth. Then I audited some Coursera classes and see what is the fraud class, because there are classes on fraud, massive classes, like it could be a semester, but just to glean a couple of concepts from them. So as I said, the specific of the curriculum was fintech. And after getting the high level topics, we decided to spend maybe a couple of days on each topic, find the data sets that would support it, think about complexity, trying ourselves to actually, we coded the problems ourselves before putting out the curriculum, because what if it's too hard? I need to, like, as a manager, I need to understand the internships piece, like I have to walk that path. And we had also, so that this curriculum was, it's a company that wanted to have it, to hire these people. And we thought, like, well, since the company is paying for this pilot, we could also like add cloud certification on top, add a little bit of some business knowledge or notes related to why we are doing these types of models, with lots of examples, like what does it mean in commerce? What does it mean in dating? What does it mean in SaaS and so on? And I'm thinking like technical skills related to ML in production would be like some parts of that curriculum, and then alternated with the data science part. We also thought that it would be probably really good to give the students more business understanding. So things like soft skills. This is something that it is so forgotten in our data-driven world. Data analysts need soft skills, need presentation skills, storytelling, slide design, all of that. So I actually,
Slide design. So
it's a
even
little,
that.
you know what? I think at the end of the day, all of us, even if we are techies, we're also salespeople. We sell and we negotiate in every single interaction. And we need to do that better in our tech work. So in my master's at Max Planck, I had a coordinator, a female, the program coordinator, who taught us as well technical writing and soft skills. She used to film us. She used to tell us, like, please, if you cannot, actually, this was part of the pitch to get a PhD. Tell the topic of your thesis in an elevator pitch. And if you can convince me, then you get it. And then you get to film yourself, to see your body language. How does your face look like? Do you look at the audience? Do you nod? Do you time yourself? So we thought it'd be a really cool idea to bring this.
And you did this in with AI Guild 2 for their course, did you?
Yeah, I found somebody through, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's basically like finding teachers, like who could teach. I also, like Max Planck network has all of these AI teachers at Hasso-Plattner Institute, right? So you can also ask them. They also have teaching the industry classes if they're available. Then, like, if you look at data storytelling and what kind of consultants offer you services on that, they're not very many. There's very few people, and I think the most prominent of them was one in the Netherlands and a couple of them in the US, but not here in Germany. So that's why it's really hard to find teachers on that. They apparently, the students said that they liked the class very much. They never expected to get such a training.
Yeah, I guess it's not what you by default expect from a data analytics or any data course, right? So you expect technical skills.
Yeah,
you don't expect,
yeah, but
how to design a slide. But it's important, of course.
It's very vital, yeah, of course. How do you pitch your own idea? How do you convince? How do you, yeah. And the cloud part was an idea because I follow this guy from Microsoft. He designs ML exercises, writes ML books. And very active. He was commenting how current universities are a little bit behind technology, and you're not going to find a class in cloud in a specific, I don't know what the MIT, maybe you do at MIT or Stanford, I don't know, but in general you don't find the practices of the real world being taught in universities. So here I think he posted something about an American boot camp that said like, we have the trifecta: cloud, data science, and I don't know what, which was also very modern, or ML in production. It was like, yep, that's where we want to go.
Well, I guess if you're MIT and you need to design a course, it will take, I don't know, a couple of years. And then by the time you do this, I don't know, AWS or Google Cloud are already different. Maybe they don't have these services that they used to have 2 years ago, and they have something else, and then it means like you need to redo the whole thing.
And the UI has changed, or the placement of information. Yes.
So that's why I guess the universities, like more classical universities, they're always behind with these things.
Because they're more reactive, they catch up to the market. Mm-hmm. And how do you convince somebody who can teach you those things? For a university might be expensive to come and teach those things, maybe.
So your role as a program manager was to come up, like to design a curriculum, and what it means is come up with a course plan, right? What are the modules there? What are the units there?
What are the topics underneath? What data sets we could have? What could we do as an exercise? So you have insurance, that means you have scoring. How do you do scoring? How do you find the data? Kaggle is amazing. God bless Kaggle. It has a lot of very good data.
So first you talk to managers from different fintech companies who work with data. Yeah, so you collected some idea from them, then you formed a curriculum, like a list of topics you need to cover. Then you understood what exactly you need to cover there, what kind of data sets you could use, and then you found teachers for each of the modules. That's the process.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you teach anything yourself?
Yeah,
any of these models?
Yeah, fraud and chargeback.
Okay.
So fraud detection as a rule-based was one example, and the other was neural networks for chargeback detection. And I was trying to explain to them that, to the students, that for fraud you have a lot of signals, and that's why you can use something else, or you can even use rule-based. You have a lot of information. We can discuss also about fraud changes. Fraud methodologies change every day. So if you have an ML model, you have to train it every week. That's another kettle of fish. And on chargeback, you don't have as much information, because there was these sort of conversations with the students, like, think, how does it happen? What's the process? How many signals? How many signals does the e-commerce see? How many signals does the bank application see? Well, then if you don't have signals and there's nothing really that triggers it, that's within your power or in your tracking, then yeah, neural networks, because I don't know what else could go. And I'm sure there's other models as well that could do better. Of course, we're not only talking about data sets, but how do you create your feature vectors, and how what are common standard practices to create that from experience, from theory.
So it was more data science then?
Yeah, I thought data science, BigQuery data science.
Because sometimes the lines between what data analytics and what data science are a bit, the lines are a bit blurry.
I'm happy to discuss those definitions, because I also teach them a little bit.
But what you described to me sounds like data science, application of machine learning to a particular domain.
Data scientists, that's what they do.
Okay, and so data sets, so you talk to these domain experts, managers, right?
Yeah, because I can look into a class, I can look into a book, I can look online on fraud and the categories for it, but that's not a direct view of how it is actually used in industry. And it's, if you have friends in industry, invite them for a coffee and ask them, have you implemented that? It's good to know what's possible to do and what the standards are.
So this is in your description of the job you were doing. It was collecting market standard practices. This is what you mean by that?
Yeah,
talking
I
to people.
wrote it myself, but this is what I did. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's very concise, but dense. And then, like, we can talk about each of these words or phrases for the entire interview, I guess. That That's quite interesting. So you worked as a data analyst, you worked as a BI manager, data activation specialist, BI
I was
manager
a
again.
technical
Sorry?
account at Google. I was a technical account manager.
Technical account
It's
manager.
a general umbrella term, actually, like solution consultant. It's an umbrella term that actually could see every single title that I had. It was under.
Okay. And now you're a teacher, right? So
I've
like all
moonlight
this.
as a teacher, but I'm also a manager of analytics during the day. Yeah.
So you have a full-time job.
I also have a full-time job. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Well, I've been interviewing in the last 2 months, so that's why you didn't see anything.
Yeah, because so what I wanted to ask you is like whether you're teaching full-time, but I guess the answer is no, or you have two full-time jobs.
I don't have kids, right? So I have freedom. I think depends very much what I feel that I can support the community most with, but also being very mindful of my own energy as well. So for example, if I start a new job, I'm not going to teach in the first 1 month or two because it's too much. It's overwhelming. I would not be a full-time teacher because I really love building things. I really like the idea of business and moving the needle and how engaging it is. I like the friction in a normal management job and teaching people there as well. I also can say that sometimes I'm so positively surprised of the mentees or the students that I'm teaching that might be even better than my own team or one single analyst. It's fascinating to see like how just different personalities and different speeds of desire to acquire new knowledge. And I can explain as well, like Frown Loop, I started as well this year, first as a more of an SQL teacher, but we also looked into how we could update the curriculum with a few more modern concepts. Like, for example, I had students or I had analysts reporting to me coming out of a boot camp, but they didn't know what a cohort analysis is, or churn, or retention, so the business KPIs. So we could also do that at Frown Loop. And then because you're an NGO, you don't have, it's really hard to bring tech, to own tech stack on which you can teach. And I offered the opportunity to some of the students, if they want to work in my cloud instance from Frownloop on my data sets. They can practice whatever they want, their SQL or other things, or some BigQuery ML. So why not? You can write it directly in a query. So yeah, kind of also brought cloud to Frownloop as a result. People get scared of it. It's like, oh my God, it must be something so big and complex, Google Cloud or any other cloud solution. And then you show them like, actually, it's really not. I'm only showing one part, which is easy. I'm not going to complexify things.
I mean, to be frank, if I look at Google Cloud interface, it's so much simpler than some of the other clouds. I mean, I use it AWS at work.
Everybody who's an engineer is AWS.
Yeah, and then if I look at Google Cloud, then some things are much more straightforward there. I mean, you kind of know how to find stuff, which is rare. I mean, not everything, but sometimes some things are a bit easier there. But I also see that in students, this, I don't know if fear is the right word, but somehow
reluctance, I would say reluctance. Yeah.
Maybe to learn cloud because this is something big and scary. But you don't need to learn the entire cloud. Well, I don't know if I can say entire cloud, but like all the AWS, all the Google Cloud, right? So there's one piece of that you just can focus on, and that's enough.
Yeah.
Like BigQuery, right?
At the beginning of the year, I was doing a greenfield assignment. So I hired from scratch and built a data warehouse from scratch. And I mean, as long as the data sources are pretty simple and you don't have a complex data ecosystem, heck, it's very easy to build pipelines. Really, it's not rocket science. Yeah, that was also really cool. I like building things, so I don't think I could do just one job. I need to have a mix of things that always kind of excite me and bring new ideas.
Which for you is, I guess, a manager, right? So as you're a manager, and then if you manage analysts, you need to get into analytics. If you manage data engineers, you need to get into pipeline building engineering. And then if you manage both, you kind of need to get into both, right?
Yeah, and product analytics and marketing
Product analytics
also falls under BI. Architect, maybe less, and ML engineer as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's hard.
And then you also teach, right?
Yes, but for example, like I had an ML engineer, bless his heart, really talented. I think one day we'll read about him in the news. And yeah, I cannot understand everything that he does. I read a little bit, but I feel like I'm behind, of course, on some areas. That doesn't mean that it makes you a better or worse manager. If you conceptually understand things, if you conceptually understand an A/B test, how to do it, you're not going to do the distribution of the results as well. But again, it's for each, to each their own. So yeah, you need to, because otherwise you cannot, especially with the engineers and especially as a woman, I feel that I need to prove that I'm technically savvy maybe more than your usual set. That's my own, what's it called?
Yeah. You mentioned one thing. So you were working with somebody who didn't know what cohort analytics is or what churn is.
Yeah.
And I'm really wondering, like, because I must admit I don't also know what exactly is cohort analytics. Maybe you can give like
Okay,
a
simple visual. So let's say, imagine that you, let's talk about a game like online gaming, Pokemon, Diablo. I play Diablo. I love Diablo.
which one? First, second?
First, second, I've exhausted them to the end together with my brother in a private LAN in our block of flats in Romania. But now I'm playing the Immortal, the online version.
Okay.
Micro, just good memories. But imagine that you have, you're launching a game, and you know that there are parts of the game that are in different sets of betas, or maybe you don't have as many journeys. And depending on what users find in that game, they're more or less active if they find the things that interest them. So you want to know, you want to actually, you as a product manager of a game or owner of a game, what you want is that your users spend as much time on your platform. So you're interested that they return, and that they return after the first month and second month, and you want a long relationship with that client. And I'm trying to explain kind of how the cohort analysis will look. So imagine that in the first month of launch, you have people being super active because it just launched and everyone wants to try it, and the servers are super busy, and everybody, the engineers focus on that and not on new maps and new challenges. And as a result, let's say that after two initial hype of 2-3 months, they don't return because there's not enough complexity in the game. Now, the PM says, well, now I have more time to think about what extra things I can bring in the game. So let's make it longer. Let's make it more complex. Let's make it more social, more challenges. And the next set of users that sign up and start playing the game have a different experience than the first ones. And as a result, they have a different behavior. And as a result, they have a different way of coming back, or they come back for things that the first group did not. So the way you take these, count the users who joined in the first month and in the second month, and then you calculate how much percentage of that first group returns a second, fourth, and so on. And if you do it with a very nice visual, you will see like a degradé of color and how that retention cohort analysis looks like, the retention rates.
The cohort here is not cluster, it's something else.
Exactly.
Okay, because what I thought cohort analysis is like you have different clusters of users, and then you somehow like you have different profiles, different personas.
You can also do that. You can use it for same month, different users, or you can like A/B test, right? You want to see if an A/B test has impacted something, or maybe you have users who see or engage with ads to get credits, and users who don't know, who hate ads, like me. So you can also create two cohorts and look at the, let's say at the, not at the retention rate, but maybe monetization rate or something else related to that behavior being exposed to something. So it can be chronological, like month after month after month, or it can be at the same time and more as a like group persona comparisons. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, yeah, thanks. So I'm really curious, how did you start with, so you said you mentored your brother, right? And then you liked it. But how did you start maybe doing this more formally? So you did this with AI Guild, you're doing this with Frauenloop. So how did you find these companies? How did you start mentoring with them? How did it happen to you?
Yeah, it happened actually.
It just happened? Like, was it intentional from your side, or did it just happened?
With the AI Guild, it really happened. I got an email from Chris like, hey, we saw your profile. You are fintech, you're data science, you're in AI Guild. Come teach for us. Like,
Well, it didn't just happen. They reached out.
They reached out. Exactly.
Yeah.
I was like,
But you didn't actively, do
no.
anything. You just
On
did
this
your stuff, and then they reached out.
Yeah. I think they were reaching out to data specialists who were working in fintech at the time, or had like a long, extensive experience of marketing data, all sorts of data. And yeah, I told Chris, hey, I actually have more time than just this if you want. So we could build more. And that worked. With Frauenloop, I kept hearing about the NGO from so many people. And then one of my hires in in January this year was from a graduate of Frauenloop. And yeah, she kept saying so many good things about it that I decided to join. Hey, can I offer you my services as a mentor or teacher? I would love to. I have some extra time if you need that. And it apparently came at the right time because there was a need to mentor. So started right away. Yeah, if you've ever been, I mean, I think this is something that for you as a gender is harder to understand, but I've been at conferences where there are only women, or been to classes where there are only women. It has a different vibe. It's a bit more jolly. It's a bit more relaxed. It's really nice. You can discuss more honestly as well. Like, hey, you are selling yourself short. You have apologized for something 10 times, and I'm gonna put an apology jar, and I'm gonna make you buy coffee or chocolate because you don't need to apologize this much. This is not reason to apologize. This is just tech work. So it allows for more connection and more honest conversations as well. Like, don't do that. Don't do that when you interview. Trust me, that's not it's not how you should approach things. Yeah, and I hope for a long collaboration with Frauenloop. I mean, we're always thinking of things.
And from what I know, mostly from Johanna, who talked to you before this interview, she mentioned that you work on some projects where you are looking into the diversity, gender diversity in big companies. Sorry?
It's not just me. It's a group of people.
Yeah. But you as a part of larger group.
It's really at the beginning, so we're just like excited.
But at the beginning, does it mean that you're not ready to talk about the initiatives you had because they're not concrete yet, or?
Yeah, I mean, they're not. The signatures are official, but yeah, I would like to keep things under wraps, just a few more until we get the first gen. But it's not what's it called? It's not some crazy new idea at all. It's all about how do you, like a data engineering question, because I've been thinking about this, like grabbing LinkedIn data or Glassdoor data and analyzing it to see if I find things. And as a data engineer, I was looking into how I can get this data and what are the right, I need a developer account, I need to pay for this, I need to have IPs to scrape things. So it took a long time to find official solutions because, I mean, I'm a data manager, I'm a data teacher. There's also the concept of data governance and legalities, and you cannot use for research information that is not publicly available or that you have manipulated, right, to get. So this also was a problem to overcome, right? Otherwise, everyone can say, I've developed something. It has to be respectfully done and legally done as well. I mean, I would love to do research on par with like lean in stuff. I would really like, because I think there are so many pitfalls, and we don't know as women whether we, you know, every time we take a job, whether we're gonna work in a team with other women or not. We're gonna be the only woman in the team. Sometimes being the only woman in the team is not easy. Really not easy. So hopefully with such work, we can see where companies that are open to diversity, and that the diversity is not at a lower level only, but at a higher level, which shows you that, you know, I have a model there who can stand up for me.
Like managers, right? You mentioned your first female manager was at when you was how
In
old?
US, yeah, I was 32.
Yeah, that's
Insane. In my, well,
exactly.
a little bit. I don't know.
Now you had to move to another country, right? To
Yeah.
have this experience.
I mean, I did some internships in Romania, but I genuinely do not remember much. This
Mhm.
was a long time ago. I don't know what if I had a male or female. I don't. I just don't. I only remember the project.
Mhm.
That's all.
But yeah, since these projects that you mentioned, they're at the inception stage yet now, well, like there's nothing concrete. But so we have a course at DataTalks.Club. We have a course about data engineering, and it looks to me that 95% of the students, or roughly, it feels like they're males, not females. So only a small fraction of the students are females. And maybe you can give us a few suggestions, like how can we make it more interesting, more attractive for females to also join our course. And this is a free course. Like how can we can attract more females, more students to join the course. So the marketing we did so far was we just posted on Reddit, we posted on I don't know, Twitter, LinkedIn. People come. That's pretty much the extent of
How many women hang out on Reddit?
zero, I guess. It's like
I mean, I
the
do,
most.
but who else?
It's like a super toxic website, right? Because it's anonymous.
It is weird. It's a trash fire sometimes. It's a fun trash fire sometimes.
Yeah.
As a parenthesis, I love the "Am I the asshole" section because I always laugh when I read things from there. Which is, yeah. How else can you advertise? You can put posters in universities. You can.
But maybe like not general advertising, but like how to make it more attractive for females. Because I guess if we go and put this in universities, then again, like
It's the same. No, it has to be more targeted.
like maybe groups like PyLadies could be in.
PyLadies would be one. I think there's a lot of fear of data engineering, to be honest. And that's a problem of signups. Let me give me 30 seconds to brainstorm.
Yeah, you were not prepared for that, so that was not a part of
That's
the
okay.
question.
That's absolutely fine. No, I mean, I would. There are these great organizations like Correlate, Citizens for Europe. They also offer classes. Maybe you can offer classes to the volunteers thereof so that they can upskill. Because I've been to a couple of hackathons where we had hard time on the data engineering part, not on the statistical part. And there were very few people with data engineering experience. I can think of Ellen Koenig, was the only female and the only data engineer expert in the room. So it can be training to volunteers who go at these cool things and hackathons, because also these organizations, as far as I've seen, have an equal representation or slightly equal of genders. Surprisingly, I saw men hacking for diversity at Correlate, which is cool. And women have different, like they have a bit of a different obstacle than the guys in what means. Who is your target audience? Do you want to target the moms? The moms are the hardest to find time to learn something, so you have to do classes in the evening. If you want to target PhD students, then you can give this class and advertise it through, I don't know, alumni or Max Planck or programs, or I'm sure, for example, it can be complementary to refugees as well. I mean, this could be also things to, just let me know. I'm somebody.
Great ideas.
I always have, the Gallup, the Strengths Finder test.
Yeah.
My number one is ideator.
Okay. Yeah. I realized that maybe if you come up with great ideas, please do share them with me. But I realized that we have 6 questions in Slido, and we should cover them too.
Yes, absolutely.
So the first question, the most upvoted one, is how can I get technical feedback on my deliverables at work? My manager either don't have the technical skill or time for code review or discussing data modeling.
Right. I would say in that case, you have to ask your manager, you have to make aware your manager that both your work quality and happiness would benefit from this. And if the team doesn't have implemented processes for code reviews or ticket reviews.
Would you just say it like that? My happiness depends on feedback. Like you would be upfront about that without, trying to say it in any other way.
I'm giving large advice. The first thing that I would do if somebody is very sad about this and really wants to have code reviews is find things internally in the team. No, don't escalate. God forbid, you don't need to for this. The purpose of getting technical feedback or reviews of ML models is very vital for the company. So yes, somebody should take a look on your code. I would not, as your manager, I would not let your code go live without somebody else seeing it because it's important. So if you do not have peers in the analytics team, there can be peers in the engineering team that can give you feedback on the engineering part of the work. Or there can be a financial analyst who can give you some feedback on the logic that you have approached. If you are lucky and work for a stakeholder who's technical, they can also maybe replicate your work. What can be the stakeholder could be the reviewer as well. And for example, the ML engineer cannot go to a code review to an analyst, so they still need to go to another engineer for that setup. So I highly encourage that first of all, convince the manager. It's something that they can be solving by themselves. Find the right person, talk to more people. Engineers love to help with these things. I don't have any other experience that this will be appreciated, and any flexibility around these approaches will also be appreciated. If you don't find any resources within your company, then it's tougher because ML models or other information can be very proprietary to the company and you cannot share outside. Please don't. But then you can find other data and kind of have a similar approach and kind of have a similar code, but please don't share it because people get fired if they do. Like, don't share company code on Reddit, right? Just code it again and ask a community maybe that you're part of.
And speaking of this discussing data modeling, I guess in situations when your manager doesn't have the skill, then it's tricky. But maybe some other people do have time. So, for example, in our company, when somebody wants to discuss like data modeling or architecture or something, and they come to me, I'm super happy. Like I will be glad to put everything I work on.
Yeah.
Or maybe not immediately, but like finish it, wrap it up for the day, and then tomorrow be ready to discuss this thing because it's much more exciting than I usually do in my day-to-day work.
All right.
Like, this green field, like data modeling, or like it means that you're probably starting something new, right? And then you need to come up with a right model for that, or right architecture, or right something.
You'd be surprised when somebody starts explaining you this, like how they have approached things, they also have a light bulb moment. The process of explaining something and taking it out of your head and putting it in words or on paper helps you clarify things too. And actually, this is one of the benefits of mentoring too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So another question, what are the top 5 overrated things Antipatterns and waste of productivity for people who learn data analytics.
Don't learn models if you don't apply anything.
And by models, you mean?
Predictive ML. Don't learn ML if you don't have a project for it. This is something I see a lot. Oh, but also over engineering. I call it a little bit of over engineering. So one, as I'm trying to kind of like bullet point my answers. So on one hand is too much ML hype without being fully aware if that is necessary or that model is applicable to the data.
Data analysts don't necessarily need machine learning, right? So if you're a data scientist, maybe you do need, like, because otherwise you will not pass the interview. They will ask you ML. But for data analysts, it's not like a must, isn't it?
Exactly. And then some other things that like anti-patterns and things that are not recommended. Over engineering is the second answer. And this is something I've learned at Google. Ship it and iterate. Find the first MVP that works for you and then iterate on it. Don't work in a waterfall model like for the PhD and wait for failure after 5 years. Iterate quickly, and if it does good, great. If it's a model out of the box, if it's a solution out of the box, and then you later improve it with something else, great, fine. I've seen this kind of mentality in a couple of Dutch companies, that we take a model out of the box, like a recommendation system, and then say, I can do better. Okay, well, first we have this, it makes money, and then we build on top.
That's, I think all the engineers are guilty of that.
I'm sure I'm also guilty of that in some parts. I know. Yeah. I think there's a lot of focus on modeling instead of the business. There's like low-hanging fruits with low tech too, if you think enough about it.
It's I guess if you want to get into analytics because you really like these shiny things. You might like this machine learning, you might like these things. And you're saying now that, you know what, actually these things aren't needed there. Not always, right?
Not all the
time.
Yeah. I mean, for example, I built a model that could estimate how much money you would lose in ad exchange, the tool, if you do not block certain categories of keywords. And it was still a little bit like this. I mean, you had a lot of data to do the prediction on, but it was not a complex model, and it was not, no. It was like, I think, a simple regression or some clustering with some super light. And you know what?
That's still machine learning. Regression.
Yeah, but I don't really consider it that level, right?
Okay.
So, and in the end, you know what? It got incorporated in the product. And when they found another analyst to build them a better model for that, they could incorporate that one. And that's okay. No, best of. Other hypey things, tools. That's why like you rarely see me talk about tools, because I think it's like, you know, you learn to ride a plane, you learn to drive a plane, it doesn't matter. Or you learn to drive a car, doesn't matter which car, if you know how to drive it.
Well, maybe with planes it's a little bit different.
Yes, I know. That's why I switched to cars as an example.
Or maybe bicycles. That's even better.
So, you know, tools come and go. The solutions that existed 12 years ago for BI, for ETL, and for visualizations are not the same.
I think Microsoft Integration Studio is still there. Right?
But SAP is not, I think.
Yeah, most of them died, I think.
And then I used to work with Pentaho, which used to be open source and for free.
Is it still around?
Still around, but it has been rebranded as Sisense, I think.
So I think I remember when I studied BI actually at my master's, and Pentaho seemed like a big thing back then. But when I graduated, nobody seemed to care about that actually.
I don't know. I mean, that was like 1 or 2 years when it was big, and it was it was a tool of choice as well.
Okay, so basically, like, if we talk about all this Pentaho and other ETL tools, so then you have a concept, which is, you have a concept ETL, right? And all these tools, they are kind of secondary, right? That's what you're saying.
Yes, like I don't see the point of using DBT if I can do my orchestration myself in GCP.
So we have a few more questions. So you probably have a lot more antipatterns, but the next one is interesting. So I'm making career transition for data science. The background is in energy sales, GIS, teaching assistant. I was told that I won't become an engineer. Do you have any advice for young women?
Oh boy. Tell me who told you that. I can calm myself and no such thing. I mean, first of all, I would say that this person who chooses data science from a bit of less technical role has a longer road of learning to go through than the classic data analyst, because you still have to understand a little bit and the business. It's not just the model; it's also the business model, how the money is made, what. So data scientist, you can totally become a data scientist. I mean, you can, even if let's say that you have a role in sales at this point, or in finance. These are departments where forecasting is used, where time series complexity is used. So you can start small with smaller things that prove value and add to a portfolio while still working in the same domain, and you gain knowledge in the other.
And in sales, there are so many applications. Actually, one of the things is lead scoring, right? So,
Yeah.
who is the most promising leads
For example,
from the backlog of leads that you have, right? So maybe there is a like, it doesn't have to be very complex, right? Maybe it's simple logistic regression.
Like I was looking at how we could better forecast organic registrations for an app, for a dating app, and I was thinking, okay, just plain forecasting like they do in Excel, this already exists. But that doesn't include things like weather, things like density, things like population age, or the exchange of dollar. So if you have those time series and you enrich your time series with this, you can have a better forecast. And again, this can be done pretty easily by someone in this role. I'm happy for that person to give her plenty of ideas as well on how she can, if she can book a session with me, she can email me, not a problem.
So what's your email, or what's the best way to contact you? I guess it's LinkedIn, isn't it?
It's LinkedIn, but you can also like first name dot last name at Gmail.
So it's Irina Brudaru, or
yeah,
because you have two first names, or like first name.
Yeah, my mom and my grandma couldn't agree, so my dad said, "Why don't you choose both?"
But you usually
Irina, yes.
So you don't use both. Usually.
No.
Okay. So even though they didn't agree which name to give you at the end, you still use Irina more.
My dad says, "I'm Switzerland. Let the woman choose." Koalas.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then there's another question about the best technologies to practice, but you said that you're not like a tool person.
Practice SQL because it's bread and butter for 20 years for me and for many people. Yeah.
Anything else that is as fundamental as SQL?
For which field?
Data analytics, I guess.
Data visualization, slides, soft skills, communication.
So then, since the question is about tools, then I guess for data visualization, you need to pick a tool. Doesn't matter which tool.
Actually, it doesn't matter which tool. Okay. And all of these tools, you can also find Tableau. You can find Tableau for free or have like a public version of it and play with it and build your portfolio. But if you want to go into data analytics, SQL is bread and butter. If you can add some coding on the side, it's great. But if not, also, I don't think it's really required. I know, yeah, some analysts have an area of focus, like be it data visualization or troubleshooting. But depends again on the business model. If it's an online business model of e-commerce, then highly recommended to understand how does the page work, or how does the app work, what is the normal user flow. Probably understanding a little bit about tracking and product analytics is very helpful, and cookies are, and so on. Because yeah, then you understand how things and data flows through the app itself in order to come into your database. And if you understand that, it's easier to work.
Don't
That would be more
get
fun.
stuck choosing a tool, right? Just
No, don't.
pick any. Okay. I see that there are a few comments, so I want to mention them because they are interesting before we wrap up. So one of the comments is, I was one of the few women doing the DataTalks.Club Zoomcamps. It was hard being of the few. So the suggestion is join the effort with Women Who Code and other women organizations like Women in Data Science. Thanks a lot, great suggestion. So I'll definitely, I am in touch with some of them, so I'll definitely
Yeah, there's like the Woman in AI, Girls Who
Yeah.
Code. Yeah.
Then a comment from Adonis is targeting advertising sounds like a good idea. So if anyone who is listening to this conversation right now knows how to do campaigns in like Facebook. You can. Okay, good. So then we will be in touch.
Very little, but Google, I mean.
Yeah, okay.
I know.
Because that's like you spent 6 years doing that stuff, right? Or how long?
Well, I actually last year I had a mismatch in a role, and I was supposed to be head of analytics, but I ended up doing tag manager implementation, troubleshooting of Google Shopping ads, brand campaigns, conversion tracking. Like I can also do that. I can moonlight as a marketing analyst any day.
Okay. So then we have a bit of budget, so we have sponsors, so we have a bit of budget that we can spend on promoting it too. So yeah,
awesome.
I'll be in touch.
Okay.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining us today. Thanks Irina for being here with us today, for sharing all this knowledge, of all this expertise with us, for giving all this advice, and yeah, thanks for asking all these questions. And sorry we didn't cover all of them.
I'm happy to answer on LinkedIn or on email. I'm very responsive and I'm very active and always open.
It's Irina Brudaru at Gmail, right?
.com, yes. Or just Google me and you will find ways to get in touch with me. It's not.
Okay then. So have a great weekend.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.